We'll pick today's conversation from where Charlotte left off, the idea of a growth mindset and the idea of scaling to be able to impact. Sairee, Nidhi talked about the Sheroes in us. You've been through multiple businesses. You've had a fascinating journey as an entrepreneur. What does that word mean for you?
So let me go back to the beginning of the world. I think Maya Angelou coined the word Sheroes. And I think the fundamental of this goes back to being happy with who you are, being happy with what you're doing, and being able to move a step forward every day. So look, our tagline says, take charge. And I think to me that sums up everything. Irrespective of where you are, what position you are in, and what geography you come from, are you taking charge enough? And I think that's it, right? It's, are you doing something that you can possibly do about what's in front of you?
I wouldn't have imagined that. I'm going to come back to that in 2 minutes. Kailash, give me an outside-in perspective. You meet a bunch of ventures every day, and you're probably evaluating growth potential among many things that you're checking off. How have you interpreted this?
No, great question, Ganesh. I think so. Our world is filled with pitch decks and financial models, right? So all we see is growth, on promises of growth at least. But I think, to me, the most important proxy for growth mindset is clarity, right? And more so at an early stage, because as a company grows, you come across various choices of how you need to grow. But if you are clear on what it means, or if you can put yourself maybe 5 years or 7 years down the line, understand what it means to have led the journey, and whatever success metric you attach for yourself or the team around you or the organization that you are trying to build, the clarity towards that path is what, to me, is the most important ingredient as you chase growth. Growth will come, it's an outcome, but clarity to me, to getting to that, and to that, there's sort of planning that needs to go to bring out that outcome, but the clarity of what you require to walk that path, in terms of bringing the right investor on board, hiring the right team, what it means to build a product and a service around it. That clarity is probably the most important metric, in my opinion.
Kailash, you also said right investor. I'm going to pick you on this in a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
Atul, what has clarity meant to you? Kailash talks about clarity as being the core to a whole bunch of things that he would look at in a venture. But you built a company at scale over the past many years. How have you translated this?
Thanks, Anand. First of all, I have to say I've never been so nervous. I've been an entrepreneur for many years. So sitting amongst women and as a token man in a room is very rare. But that said, clarity is, I think, actually courage of conviction, right? The belief that you will do well. I've built 2 businesses. God's been very kind. Both are reasonably successful. One's a leading information platform in India. The other is a wealth management platform. And from his perspective, when he talked about clarity, we always knew why we were doing this. She talked about purpose. She talked about, so it's this courage of conviction that I am, or we are doing this for the right reasons, and sticking to that knitting. Obviously, your business model might pivot, but the purpose you set out to do, and having that clarity and sticking to it, I think leads to growth, right? And obviously, I always say the courage of conviction combined with raw ambition. You have to, as an entrepreneur, have an outsized ego, have an outsized ambition. Don't be scared, don't be afraid is something I always say. Just be courageous. It might work, it might not, but unless you believe that it's going to succeed, it's very unlikely it will. So those 2 things are my mantras: courage of conviction and raw ambition in the right doses is what I would say as clarity.
Swati, although Atul did say outsized ego and an outsized ambition, he's a successful entrepreneur.
Right.
You build businesses at scale. Um, how would you translate this?
You know, first of all, congratulations to all of you. Let me just begin with that, right? It is extremely hard, the journey that you're on, and being the one who's probably interacted with the entrepreneurial space the least, I'm feeling I'm a little bit of an imposter syndrome, so let me start with that. But I think we're all leaders as well, right? So let me just appeal to the leader in you a little bit when I'm speaking here, because I'm just starting my journey in investing and advising, and it's been truly fulfilling. I learned so much in my advisory. I think I learned more in advising a lot of your entrepreneurs than, and sometimes I'm like, really, they're paying me for this? This should be like an equitable situation. So coming back to your sort of question of scaling, it has been, you know, one sometimes imagines that, hey, you know, MNCs have it sorted, right? They all know. But remember, a lot of these brands come into the country, they have to set up. I remember Netflix, I think I was one of the first 10 people to be employed here. It was no less than a startup. If you remember, suddenly 150 countries were on. And we had the same price point as the US, and it has now taken all those years to correct it, I would say. But I think there is always that hustle. Everyone speaks about this hustle. Everyone speaks about what is the right organizational structure, what is the right product, what's the right offering, what do we do to brand, and often we can get a little bit confused about what comes first. Right? So I think at a very basic level, a growth mindset to me is nothing more than a constant belief that what got you here will not get you there. Right? And of course, I'm borrowing from Marshall Goldsmith, one of my favorite authors. If you haven't read that book, it is such a great book to read when it comes to leadership. And this is not just about the product portfolio you have or the consumer cohorts that you're reaching out to. It's also the teams that you have. As hard as that may be to think about, do I have the right team to get me to the next stage? Am I right? Am I trying to prime the audiences that are next in my life? What about my existing customers? I'm getting about 100 rupees from my existing customers. I'm assuming 25 rupees coming in from new customers, but that 100 needs to remain 100 at least, if not grow. And I feel a lot of times we don't end up looking at growth in terms of the existing user base as well. So I think all of these principles, whether it's a Netflix, whether it's a, you know, a Cred, whether it's a National Geographic, or whether it is any of your businesses, these principles are still the same when it comes to scaling up. Because we're all in a world where we're trying to figure out the trends of consumers that are changing a minute. Every minute, it's like, oh my God, this is the new trend. And it can be very, very confusing. So that clarity of conviction can hold you grounded, and also to constantly keep mobilizing your teams as you're on that journey.
Outsized ego that holds me grounded. Okay. I'm going to change gears. Yes. Admissible in a court of law. Over lunch today, I was talking to some of our entrepreneurs here, and one of the entrepreneurs told me something that shook me a little bit. And I'm going to pose it to all of you. And she said, I understand this idea of growth in scale, but here's the deal. I live with it within myself. I have no foil. Whom do I talk to? Whom do I talk to because I'm taking a risk? I'm putting my organization at risk. I'm putting my team at risk because I think it can be done. I have no foil. Whom do I consult? Whom do I talk to? I can talk to my father, I can talk to my uncle, I can talk to my husband, but they're going to be platitudinous, if I may. I'm going to throw this to all of you. In each of your journeys, have you faced this? You run large organizations. How lonely is it to follow the path of growth? I'm putting words in your mouth, but please.
Okay, let me
I'm
take
yours.
this. So I'm a single founder, been one a really long time, and didn't come from a business family. In fact, until very recently, until Sheroes became bigger, my mom and dad would always say, "Tum log kya karte ho? Like, what is this whole internet business and what is this app and all of that?" So I think, and then the truth is, irrespective of whether your business is this or this or this, as a entrepreneur, you're going to be lonely. You may have co-founders, you might still be very lonely. It's good to have co-founders, it's good to have a team. But I think the nature of this is lonely. And it's like sports. You may play a team sports or you may play a solo sports. That run on the field every morning is you. It's you and nobody else. It's your muscles on the road. It's you going out and doing it. But you also know that the thrill is yours as well. When it goes up, nobody feels it. You feel it. And you know, it is only you. And when it goes down, it feels like somebody has buried you and you can't get out of bed that day. But that's also you. And I think that's what we signed up for. We didn't sign up for this, we signed up for this. And I think that's the fun. We treat it like life in sports, right? I think it's a lot like that. Having said that, having been an entrepreneur for almost 2 decades, I have learned to deal with it in different ways. And I'm going to just share a little bit of how I deal with it. And part of this is what I call dealing with loneliness in an institutional way. So there are matters that are very annoying to you. You know, tax matters, legal notices, tax slabs being changed at random, things that are going to take your sleep away but can be dealt with. And here I would say you can actually get a lot of institutional support around loneliness. So for example, where I have reached, I literally have a founder's office team who I think makes my day a lot better because they take away a lot of things I'm going to be otherwise be worrying when I go to bed. Legal issues, data issues, and a lot of that. So I think line up support as much as possible. Second is at some point, you have to put it to bed, right? It's like even in sports, they say, warm up, cool down, get off the field, and day off the field so that you don't burn out your muscles. I think it's a lot like that. There has to be a time when it cuts off. When that whole thing cuts off, whether it's your phone that you want to throw in the next room or you want to sort of, for me, it's my, I have a daughter, she's 15, she just finished her high school, it's her, like when she was young, I would just come back home, I would put everything away, and we would read for 1 hour. We read, I think until she became like a teen, we read every day. And that was my switching off. It's like, you know, day is gone, I'm not going to come back to it. Then I have a dog and a cat. That's my switching off. You got to switch that switch off. Otherwise, this whole thing is going to keep saying, you are alone in this problem, I'm going to eat you up. You have to shut down that room and go away. And the truth is, everybody's job is hard. Every single job is hard. Whether you're a railway lineman or whether you're an entrepreneur, you're a sports person. But we signed up for this. It's like being a celeb, right? If you want to be a celeb, your paparazzi will come after you. You will give up your privacy. So being an entrepreneur is this. We want to create something. We want to put our name on something. And we want the high, we want the unicorn, and we want to have a mission, and we want to break away from our families. So here we are. So let's deal with it and have fun with it.
Atul, you grabbed the mic. Could you please speak it up?
No, I think, thanks for that, Shali. It's 2 things. One, try to find a co-founder. It helps, but doesn't take away the loneliness. I was just in a conference with other CEOs and founders, and a lot of the conversations are about actually dealing with co-founders. So it helps and also doesn't help. The other piece of advice, apart from what Shaili said about it's about you and you enjoy the highs and lows, finding a mentor does help, right? People who've been on the journey earlier. So a conversation with somebody like her will just relieve you, right? So I think finding somebody you can reach out to, though I said you have an outsized ego, find somebody with a bigger ego than you and talk to them and they'll help. So I think somebody who's been on the journey, very often, like she was saying, that at the end of the day, as an entrepreneur, it's like boxing with the clouds, right? You had a really busy day, you've done tax filing, you've done all that, you've got nothing to show for it in terms of customer or whatever. Don't feel bad. All of us have been down that journey in some shape or form. So find a mentor, find a co-founder, and take time off, right? So I have a habit that, though I'm now a founder of 2 companies, 6:30, 7, once I'm home, laptop is switched off, come what may. You just don't switch it on unless there's something really burning. So just taking that time out and being disciplined about because the family needs you, right? Because already, even if your laptop is not on, your mind is working. So if you're not spending that time with your family, yeah, they're contributing a lot, but you owe it back to them to switch off. The three things I would say.
I've had multiple mentors, I will say, right?
Sorry to interrupt you. The NSRCEL mentors have no outsized egos. They're amazing people.
Yes.
And you know that. Sorry.
No, I've had multiple. I think I'm seeing the breadth of categories, cities. I think life stages. I'm sure when it comes to where I am in my personal life, and I think Sairee's captured it very well. I'm sure it is. I mean, it is terrifying, right? To say, oh my God, this is all on me, and I've hired all these people, and they want an answer in that moment, and I don't have it. And so I think two things have helped me in leadership positions. And I remember I was 32 when I became, general manager of a TV network, and I used to go to the Broadcasting Federation, and there was not a single man, and I was like, how do I even do this, right? Massive, right? And even then, we get these opportunities, and we're so grateful. We're so grateful for the opportunity. I don't think necessarily men are, maybe Atul is. But it's like, you've earned this, is always the feeling that you have to remember. You deserve what you're doing. You're on the right path. The conviction is important. Get the mentors, very, very, very important to just have a bouncing board. Sometimes it's your own team. And so I'll just add, the only point I have to add is a lot of times I hired people in my immediate team that would have no problem disagreeing with me violently, even.
Building a hotel requires carpenters, masons, somebody putting equipment in the kitchen, somebody designing it. Running a hotel requires, you decide how many kinds of restaurants you want. When you're running the hotel, you require waiters, front office staff, chefs. We confuse the matter that this guy built the hotel and they will run the hotel. They don't. You start with building the hotel, you start running the hotel, but you have to keep building. So having the right mix of builders and people who operate is very, very important, especially as you scale businesses. And it's never an easy one. But that's my piece on the building part or the teams you're looking for. You can't do it all, however competent you are and however large your ego is. But you need to have this balance of building versus running, obviously, at different stages of the company. And a key clear path of the growth mindset is to continuously keep building the hotel, right? You're adding wings, you're adding more rooms, you're adding whatever. I'm just playing on the analogy. But having that balance is really important for growth. Otherwise, you get so busy running the hotel every day, it'll stop growing. So, sorry.
Sairee, yours. No foils, no
I'm
mirrors.
I'm going to call Atul on that. Contrary to popular belief, women are always selling, so much so that other people don't even know they're being sold to.
How have you built your teams? Because you said no mirrors.
So, my teams have always been, I call them, we're a little bit of a hippie organization. We're a bunch of massive misfits. We all come from places. I mean, I grew in small town India. Most of my cousins go and get married when they get engaged when they're in class, when they're in graduation second year, they get married in third year. We have literally a family playbook to do this. So when I got out, I didn't really have like a massive network. I went to JNU where startups were frowned upon. So I couldn't, unlike I couldn't sort of go back to my own classmates to hire. But I started working very early. And by the time I was finished with my college, I had 4 years of work experience. And that meant I had a network. I literally had a Rolodex of who's who in Delhi because I worked with embassies and MEA and businesses and all of that. So the first place you go and hire is people who know you, people you've worked before. Even things like I remember doing Fiat was launching in India and they had a road show and they wanted people to come stand near the car and hand out flyers. So while I did that for Fiat at one point in time, and the team that I worked with that day was part of the team that I hired later, a couple of years later. So you meet people every day. You meet people at clinics, you meet people at school, you meet people in your neighborhood. the world is a massive hiring playground. I have done this all my life. So just want to tell you, we're now a 100-member team. We have never used a professional recruitment organization. And we love the fact that people come to work with us because they love what we are doing. Somebody told them about us, and they did their own reference check, and they came around and said, oh, I like this, I want to be part of this. What we have done on our part is make it easy for them to work with us. We were doing remote in 2006. I had ex-McKinsey consultants and ex-BCG consultants working out of South Africa and Hong Kong because we could offer flexibility and large organizations couldn't. It's only now in a post-COVID world everybody gets this. We've been doing this a long time. Hiring women on a break, hiring folks with disabilities, hiring folks who want to do another side passion project but work in a professional environment that pays the bills 4 hours a day. I think if, as a small business, you're able to give people custom careers, they will customize your success. They will stay with you. And a lot of my current team is the team that was part of my previous ventures. So, and sometimes, you know, they're done working and they want to go do an MBA, they want to go set up a business. Then it's your job as an entrepreneur to say, hey, you're my alumni now. However small it is, you're still an alumni, and let me do something for you. So I think as an entrepreneur, don't listen to this, hiring is hard. Hiring is another form of selling. You will meet people every day. People are all around you. They're in your colony, they're in your children's school, they're everywhere. You just have to tom-tom this a lot. You just have to be like very blatant and asking. And thirdly, if your work is a mission, in which I'm sure a lot of you are building organizations that have a certain focus, whether it's sustainability or something that people are passionate about, you know, people will come and work with you because everyone wants to do good while they are on earth. There's not one person who says, I'm not going to do much with my life, you know. So I think, and you got to appeal to that senses of people.
Kailash, I'm going to flip this. You look at things probably from an outside in. When you look at a team, how would you figure, might be a cliche, this team has a growth mindset. They'll get you to your 10 bagger that you hope for. What's your 100 baggers?
So it's better be a fund returner, right?
What's your perspective of this team can make it happen?
No, again, I think I go back to the points that my panelists also raised, right? Again, I go back to the point that I made on clarity as well. So 2-3 things that will keep the team going. And when I say, I probably start with this quote that I heard from a senior of mine at IIM Bangalore when I was starting off my VC career, right? And it's true for entrepreneurs as well. Anything worth chasing in life or anything worth accomplishing in life doesn't have a mark to market, which means the validation from the market will not come to you for a very, very long time, which means you need to have a complete belief in what you're building till the market recognizes and rewards it, right? So that vision needs to, unfortunately, needs to come from you. So the team which bonds together in terms of recognizing that opportunity, recognizing that purpose is, I think, very, very important. In fact, as we speak to companies before we invest in them, and this is more so important in an early stage because you have almost nothing to diligence on. The product is being built, the client base is yet to be built. The validation on the product may come, may not come, right? So it's all about your, even for an investor, there's no mark to market, in fact, more so for the founding team. So we see a couple of things. One is the founding team, which is coming together, able to agree, saying this is what we are building, this is what success will mean to us 2 years down the line, 4 years down the line, 5 years down the line. And this is the kind of team we want to build as the N-1 layer or N-2 layer. And not right now, even maybe 2 years down the line. So that path, on the clarity of that path is very important. Everything else on your how to acquire users, what's your go-to-market strategy, which market to target at what time will come with time. But this is the most important path. And then, multiple proxies to look at this, right? Do they have complementarity in terms of the background, etc.? But that's still a second one. Are they able to relate to what you're building as a team? And do they agree collectively saying this is what the success is?
Interesting. I'm going to put you on a spot a little bit. Since morning, we've been talking about it's not easy for a woman entrepreneur to raise institutional funding. There's no question. First respond.
Not,
Too long, too long.
not really, not really.
I want to hear that.
In fact, I am actually just, as I speak, in the morning we wired,
It's coming to you.
we wired money into a, okay.
According to them, I'm mean.
No, I think, see, if you look at the normal curve, you will find data points across the curve.
Please.
Sir.
Your
But
perspective is very important.
Ha,
Like,
ha.
all of us
but probably I can,
cohorts have been through this
Sure,
journey.
sure, of
They
course,
have
of
some
course.
experience somewhere on
For
the
sure.
bell curve,
Fair,
right?
yeah,
Your perspective is of value.
so as I speak, just the morning wired money into a company, the CEO is a lady, right? And it's a husband-wife team, by the way, and the lady is the CEO. Oh,
I will
is this-
explain. I will explain. Please.
Okay, this is an exception to the rule? Oh,
go on.
unfortunate. But it took me quite some time diligence because there are questions around saying husband, wife, team, what will happen and all that. So that is there. But of course, what I've seen is, and I'm not saying this because I'm in this gathering, but what I've generally seen is when there's a lady in the founding team's board, generally there are a couple of things. There is the ability to brainstorm and come up with more ideas faster is better. Second, there is the ability to put together the next level of team is far more, the clarity in terms of what team needs to come is much, much higher. So those 2 points is something that I've generally seen across our board. And we have about 86 active companies in our portfolio, right? At least 25, 27 of them have women founders. And we have seen this stark sort of difference. And 26, I think, okay, it's not statistically significant yet. Probably we'll get to that in the next couple of years.
It is
But
brilliant.
this is a clear observation.
Sairee, you've done this a few times. Your experience.
Oh, too many times. I know. Look, in spite of whatever we hear, women are raising a wee little more capital than they were, but it's not enough. Okay? So there's a lot of whitewashing around us. Okay? And second, I think men continue to get funded on potential. The back of the envelope checks continue to go to men. I want to see a day where women get funded on potential and not only on performance. Look, I wanted.
You've got to unpack that a little bit better because you said potential, you said performance, and many of my
Absolutely.
cohorts
Oh,
are
yeah.
actively raising funds
So,
today.
okay, go to Twitter today. There's a startup blowing up, raised venture money 3 months ago, and they're shutting down today. Good friends of mine, celebrated founders, raised money with no product, with nothing to show for it, because 2 men building a cool metaverse product. Okay? I promise you, it'll take 500 years before women get that potential check.
Okay.
So let me also tell you what I did.
Your experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've raised all sorts of capital, okay? What I call begging capital, friends and family capital, institutional capital, impact capital, asshole capital, all of that. Some of them I'm trying to get off my cap table now, and venture capital, okay? The only venture capital I have raised is outside of India. It's not in India. And on to my third venture, building a fintech now, decided not to raise any money in India. Didn't raise any money in India.
Explain.
Raised all the money from Singapore, Dubai, Bay Area, directly with the LP base that funds VCs. Okay?
Because?
Because irrespective of how much we've done, let me give you a little sense of the company we've built. Number one, we built a profitable company. We've built a company of 25 million users with profitability with $6 million. I promise you there's no company in consumer internet in India that's built with so little capital. And I built it with so little capital because there's no capital. So, okay, and what are we doing? We're creating an ecosystem that's potentially 100 million users, all profit generating where employment, entrepreneurship, access to capital is how we monetize. So I think we're fundamentally very clear on what we're building. Thankfully, access to capital got better. The world opened up, COVID happened, all of that happened, Indian unicorns happened, so we're beneficiary of all those tailwinds. But the truth is, raising money as a woman founder is a humiliating experience every single day. It is. I'm sorry, I'm going to sound terrible. I also now run a fund, so it's not like I'm doing nothing about it. I'm building a fund to fund women founders because I've seen it.
We will work together.
I've seen it till here. I have seen rejection mails, which are all going in my book, by the way, because they're so redonkulous. Not because they actually mean something. Look, every entrepreneur is used to getting rejected. But the truth is, we still are looking for pattern recognition. We are still looking for IIT-IM. We're still looking for man. We're still looking for, and you know what? Most women who are building are actually breaking those patterns. We have no patterns. We have nothing to. Here we are, like. All venture capitalists in this country are my friends, but they are blind.
Worse, some of them are my classmates,
Yeah.
but bounce.
So,
But look, it's fine. It is what it is.
Sairee.
But the truth is, you know, it is, for women founders, it's still a steep climb raising money. I can tell you, I mean, you can have a webinar on this all day. It's a steep climb. The reason a lot of women are not building this, कौन देगा पैसा? And देगा भी तो मतलब, it, the terms change every, this thing. I am working with a bunch of women founders now whose cap tables are screwed because nobody would give us money, so we took whatever they told us to, and we signed SHAs which were really redonkulous as well. I can see hands in the audience. So anyway, this is a day-long seminar we will have separately.
But I will come back to the conversation of a pitch and the story, but bounce.
No, so I mean, I can definitely say guilty as charged, so both IIT and IIM. So, but believe me, raising capital is not a joy. I mean, I've told this to my VC friends. My other company actually supplies information to the venture capital industry. When 27-year-old or young analysts ask you questions about will this succeed? And you tell him, why would I start this if it was not going to succeed? Yeah? I mean, am I stupid or something, right? Maybe it's an ageist thing that I'm slightly older. Yeah, fundraising is never fun. And I wish this was a day-long seminar and we could make the VC industry sit in front of us and tell them how humiliating it is. Yeah, so. And then they'll throw it back at you saying, no, you don't realize how difficult it is for us to raise funds. That's your problem, don't make it mine. I'm building a business, right? So anyhow, yeah, best luck to you. I mean, I hope this gets corrected. I mean, I'm the father of 2 daughters, and I wish they become entrepreneurs, and I really hope the ecosystem changes, and everybody gets an equal chance. Yeah, that's all I can say.
On that, and maybe I'll start with Kailash. What's it about a pitch that needs
You want me to answer those questions?
brilliantly? Because they did talk about this thing of performance and potential, and I wrote it down in bold. Because there's something about the pitch, there's something about saying a story. In a nice manner, I tried to raise money twice and failed miserably, and I have no savings to show for it. I don't know. Unlike Atul, maybe I'm a duffer. It can happen. But there must be something about the story. We will talk. What's it about the pitch? Would you see something peculiar or unique about a pitch that says, I think I'll make this bet? How should the story be articulated? And then I'll figure if gender is a filter or not. But what would you expect in the story?
Okay, if you ask me frankly, nothing about gender, right? So 2 things that I see very clearly in a pitch before we even decide to take it to one of the founding partners of the firm, right? Clear white space in the targeting, and why should you succeed compared to why everyone else is who's attempting a similar problem. Second, clarity on how this will sustain. Creating a product is great, but how this will sustain 3 years down the line, 5 years down the line as it grows. And third, like I keep coming back, what's the kind of team that will propel this to a company which will become a unicorn or potential unicorn, right? So these three clear things, if the pitch brings out, I wouldn't say it's a pass, but it's a definitely worth digging deeper and taking a bet also potentially, depending on what stage the company is. But yeah, I think this, yeah.
Got it. Now I'll pivot this conversation maybe to the two of you. As a woman entrepreneur, as a woman leader, what's aiding your journey? We talked intensely about fundraising. We talked a little bit about building teams. We fundamentally looking at how can I scale, how can I grow, how can I make a material difference to my markets and products of choice. And you talked about passion, he talked about clarity. As a woman leader and as a woman founder, what's helping your momentum? What's helping your, what's aiding your journey? If there are so many winds that are pushing you backwards, what's aiding your journey?
You know how an arrow goes forward, right? You have to be pulled backwards to go forward, right?
So you're saying, I'm going to translate the analogy. You're saying if you're faced with any form of adversity, you try and flip it over to some kind of a strength. I mean, I'm still mounting a cliche, but...
No, but look, there is a lot of adversity, but we didn't sign up to consume adversity, right? We signed up to become successful.
What of your strengths is aiding your journey? There must be something in me that says...
Absolutely. So look, I think one, because you're so unique, the truth is anybody, I mean, today I know we see, all these women in a room. The truth is, more often than not, it's the reverse. It's, Atul in the room position, right? We are the only woman in the room a lot of times, okay? You're unique. We've all been there. We've all been in C-suites, boardrooms, shop floors, wherever else. This has happened a lot. So you start playing to your strength because you realize you're the only person in the room with empathy. You can see better. So you use that. Okay, like we started doing this a lot. We literally became a company that customizes careers because we saw this is such a great need and everybody else is still trying to fit people in boxes. So we played to our strengths and we did what we played to who we are. And I think a lot of women, when they're building businesses, they want to build a reflection of who they are. It's all, your business is also self-expression, right? Look at, Elon Musk or Trump, whatever, their businesses are an expression of who they are, So I think every time an entrepreneur builds a business, they're also putting their name in the world. They're putting their name and sands of time to say, this is how I want to be remembered. This is the kind of good I want to do. This is the kind of brand I want to do. This is the kind of organization I want to do. And I think when women are building, we are doing a lot more of this because it just, that's the thing that's pushing us forward because we are good at this. This is how we were built. This is innate to us. You can't build a business by being somebody else. That never works. And a lot of women, when they're building businesses that are true to themselves. You look at Vinita at Sugar. She built Sugar because that's who she is. That's the journey of building it. You look at Heads Up for Tail. Rashi's building it because that's who she is. That organization has the Rashi imprint. So it's not just the chest beating, testosterone having entrepreneurial styles that are out there. It's also a lot of us who are building companies that have our DNA on it, our name on it. And that's our superpower because that's us. Nobody else can be us.
Can you repeat the question?
Tailwinds as a woman leader. As a woman leader, if we believe there are adversities, what's within you as a woman leader that propels you forward?
I think, as I said, I think self-awareness is such an important quality that I think we all have inherently. But I think in that moment of I'm invisible in the room, I have suddenly been told I should put up my hand for the job because I'm a woman, which is reverse tokenism if you ask me. I think in that moment, you have the need to correct that balance. You can't give up. There is no one, if we're in a room of people who have not given up, right? So, I mean, it's that moment of, all right, I'm going to tackle this separately. I have just been made to feel very invisible in this room because either there's a gender situation or an ageist situation or a, this person seems to think this is the person to talk to, whatever that may be. I haven't got funds or I haven't got the attention or whatever that may be. But I think it's the need to correct the balance. If anyone in this room or outside the room gives in, that's a problem. You can't live with it. I can't sleep with a moment where I have been faced that adversity and not corrected it. It doesn't have to be in that moment. We all have grace as well. But we will correct it. And it doesn't have to be that moment. But I think it's just being able to say, I've got this opportunity. I want to be an example. And I can't let so many people down, even if they're not watching.
Outstanding. We have some time for audience questions. This has been very thought-provoking, so I'm sure something has got provoked.
Even for me, it's been extremely thought-provoking. I'm actually on the brink of starting my own special education thing, and I've been so engrossed in this conversation. But anyway, so we have a few questions. You all have already logged on to slido.com, right? So here are some questions. We'll let you decide who can take the questions.
Let me read out. I can see some on the panel.
Yeah.
Okay, I think the first one is interesting. How do you keep the energies of the team high when you aren't sure about how things might pan out yourself? Especially given all the conversation we had over the last 2 years, we simply didn't know the level of ambiguity. You don't know what tomorrow brings. You don't know what tomorrow brings to yourself first, your family, then your company, then their family. How do you deal with this level of ambiguity?
I think Sairee said it, like, you signed up for this, right? Doesn't mean your team has to go through this. I mean, as one of the founders, one of your critical role is also to be the umbrella, right? So, I mean, you need to take your team along with you. But you are the torchbearer, you are the leader, and yeah, I mean, it's probably part of your personality. And the reason you're an entrepreneur is because who you are, right? You want to be ahead, you want to make a difference. So energy comes naturally, actually, probably to me at least.
But how do you translate it to your team?
By leading by example. By leading by example, being authentic. You share when there are challenges, right? We just wrote an email last night about winters here and just because winter's here doesn't mean it's going to be spring in 3 months. This time winter's here for 2 years. Right, but that's a reality. You tell them it is, but you tell them, hey, I've got you covered. We're gonna take, and like we said, we wrote this on our board actually. Those who survive will thrive. When pandemic hit us, so we said those who survive the pandemic will thrive, and that's turned out true for us. So I think it's that energy comes from within. Be authentic to your teams.
Sir, you had an advantage on that question because in so many ways, your current business is also a cause.
Yeah.
And sometimes you rally your team around a cause.
Yeah.
You can't get so lucky all the time.
No, but you have to still pay your bills. Everyone has to pay bills at the end of the day. So the cause can't last you winters. So I think, so let me quickly share with you a little bit. We are going through this major transition as a company. We are going from what I call pirate to navy. We were this hippie organization. We enjoyed building this. We're still building this. Our mission hasn't changed. But now we're building an org around it. And there is structures, there are P&Ls, there is capital, there's everything that comes with the trappings of building a business. And then, of course, you hear this. 6 months ago, it was unicorn. Now it's winter. So people are like, what is happening? Like, where should we go? Who are we in this whole ecosystem? So you do what Zelensky would do. You rally your troops. You talk to them as often as possible to not everything is their problem. So raising funds is not their problem, it's your problem. You go figure it out. But everything else that needs to get done, sales numbers, commerce numbers, blah, blah numbers, I think you hold people accountable. And third is, I think, at the end of the day, it's like going back on your pillow. You ask your why. And at least to me and my team, we go back to our why very often. Our why keeps us going. So yes, we're lucky we have a really large why. And I think that ecosystem has grown. Our ecosystem of partners has grown. Suddenly, it's more recognized. So our team is getting this validation to say, oh, this is this is more than us. This is not just us chipping away on our computers. It's impacting women in rural India. It's helping whatever. So I think we are going through a little bit of that, but I think just proactively communicating every single day, even if it's 5 minutes, 1 email a week. Like I send a founder's email, you know, I actually send a Slack tag to everyone, but it's for everyone and it's transparently. And of course, small things. COVID happened, we told everybody nobody will get fired. Nobody got fired, but we had delays in payments. And we paid everyone off, but we were transparent about it. We're probably going to say the same thing. Nobody gets fired, but you know, hold on your horses, tighten the purse, let's just make more money. So I guess you just be as simple and transparent as possible.
A couple of fascinating questions, and figure who you want. First-time entrepreneurs or first-time managers and founders as well, right? If you had to go back and, maybe I'll reword that, advise your younger self, it's a tough one when you're a first-time manager and a first-time founder. Right? You've got to learn so many things at self.
Like in Hindi, I have a few of these takya kalams, right? It always takes longer, it always costs more. Just remember this. I'm sure the VCs will tell you, in all your Excel spreadsheets, you'll break even in 3 years, you'll double everything. In real life, it doesn't work like that, right? So, yeah, real life, you just don't know. I mean, actually, at Probe, my other company, I shouldn't tell the VCs this, we didn't have targets for the first 1 year. We said we're all working with the right cause and just not just put undue pressure on ourselves. So the one learning I would do is that just be aware that it takes longer, it costs more than you set out to do. And the last, because I came from a corporate career, I didn't have that realization so deeply as a founder when I began, that cash is king. Like you said, you have to pay bills, whatever, how great your purpose is. But at the end of the day, you have to pay salaries, you have to pay vendors, you have to, and so just conserve cash. More people die of overeating than starvation. So yeah, don't take too much funding, but yeah, have enough to make sure you survive and you build a business. So yeah, the learnings are, takes longer, cash is king. Make sure you're aware. Whatever you're doing, even if you're bootstrapping, even if their funders are fools, friends, and family, just find the money.
No, I think there's a sort of subtle point to what Atul said. I think one of the things that we see, and I have this opportunity looking at companies in the seed stage, and because seed stage and because IITIM founders, younger founders, etc. One of the things that we try to at least advise companies is to build in buffer. Like Atul said, it takes longer. It's more expensive to build what you plan to build. But I think more importantly, it is one thing that people miss out is have clarity in what you're planning. When you put out an Excel spreadsheet for the next 18 months, sometimes it's just important to think through what you have just put in. I mean, it's not just a number again. What does it mean? How did you arrive at that number before you put that out to a presentation, right? That planning itself will take quite some time, especially when you're building out something that promises to be disruptive in the particular space that you're targeting. That disruption cannot come overnight. So it'll take a lot more pushing, a lot more validation, a lot more adoption from target consumer base that you're looking at. That itself will take far longer than you think it'll.
There was another question in the earlier screen, Kailash. I'll direct that to you and others can pick it. I think if I remember, it said, I'm a woman founder, but I'm also from a tier B city, so it's even more difficult for me to raise funds. I'm going to translate it to also meaning, how do I build my network? How do I knock a door? How do I get a door opened? How do I build my credibility? How do I get an inbound? If I'm operating from a tier 2 city, how do I reach out to raise institutional capital?
So again, this is my perspective and I could be wrong. So one of the things that I learned again very early in my VC career is 90% of your learning will come from entrepreneurs, right? And it's very important to maintain that humility as well as you grow through as an investor. Only 10% of your learning will actually come from all the industry reports that you download and read, right? So there are, serious investors are actually waiting to talk to entrepreneurs, irrespective of the space that they come from, irrespective of different life experiences bring. So serious investors are actually waiting to listen to your story. So at least I mean, forget about all these junior analyst spaces.
you expect cold call?
Not
Or you would welcome a cold call? Let me ask it in a nice manner. You welcome a
find
cold
a warm
call.
connection. And it's not very difficult to do a warm connection. And there are, I think there are enough platforms which will lead you to a connect to a particular investor.
Got it.
So I think leveraging that, it's not very difficult in these days. I think LinkedIn is a great platform that way. Yeah.
There's a nice question on managing personal stress. I shouldn't say nice. I forgot the exact wording of it. But as you go through the journey of change, growth, building a team, how do you manage yourself? How do you manage your personal stresses?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm hogging this one. I think there are two answers to this. One is obviously, like Sairee said, that be aware, take time out. But I would seriously recommend seek help and professional help. If you got a bad back, you will go to a chiropractor or a physio. If you've got diabetes, you'll go to a doctor. If you got any sense of anxiety, any sense of stress, it is an illness, right? And it's nothing wrong to be unwell. Go to a doctor. So highly, highly recommend this. India somehow has a stigma around psychological help. Please, please, people in the room, just don't do that to yourself, to your children, to anybody. If you see people stressed out, offer help, get them to a professional. That's seriously my advice on this one.
I'm going to, during the, I think, middle of the second wave, we actually tried anonymous counseling to a lot of our founders, and we tied up with a couple of agencies to help founders talk about what they were going through, because there were stresses at the personal level, organization, and the teams would come to the founder and say, you know, I've had this tragedy in my house, and you have to deal with it. It's like a double dip. I would say the response was mixed. Not everybody signed up. I'm not saying they should. Even after the first conversation, many of the counselors came back and said, we expected they'd come back to us because we were talking about important conversations, but they didn't come back. You did say there's a personal stigma to it. And I'm going to ask, is it also because as a founder, you're also running your treadmill? You're perpetually on that race. And is that a reason why you're parking yourself, deprioritizing yourself as opposed to other priorities that are in your basket?
Yeah, so that's a choice you need to make. So as I said, if you mentally get ready that it's not a stigma, seeking help is not bad. I think you'll do yourself a favor and you'll do people around you a favor. Because being vulnerable, in spite of what I've said about courage of conviction and large egos, being vulnerable is also a strength of a founder, right? Being available, being vulnerable, is important. So I personally take mental health very seriously. Any sign in our teams, we sort of insist, right? If you find a person coughing or whatever, you'd get them to a doctor. It's the same thing. So I know it's not easily done in India because of whatever reasons there are. And especially, I mean, without sounding classist, tier 2, tier 3 cities, it's much worse, has been my experience, right? One, the availability of professional help is lower. The second is there is this sort of, and especially I can imagine as a woman, I can only empathize that you'd get a lot more. She doesn't have courage, doesn't have the strength, and hence she's going through this. This is what I expected. Doesn't matter. Just seek the help is my advice.
Thank you. We're almost out of time. I must say, will count me out, the two male members on the panel have outdone themselves.
Great sport.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I would like the last con to the two of you. 500 women entrepreneurs and founders, your parting words to them. Swati first.
Thank you, first of all, because I know you're all going to be huge examples very soon. You already are, in my eyes, and I think in so many eyes. I think the step that you've taken, I think it's clear. Many reports have said, the last I remember, I think $700 billion added to the GDP by 2025, only if women come forward to start being in the workforce and start their own companies. So thank you for being part of that thing. Know that you're doing something unbelievable, and you can always hold these two accountable if something doesn't happen. Thank you.
Your side.
First of all, congratulations to each one of you for being up there and for being a role model, because entrepreneurship is it's a little amoebic, right? It spreads in weird ways. You don't know which way it is spreading, but it's spreading. And you're part of doing that. So be proud of yourself. Second, I just want to open my door and say if any of you needs help, look me up. I'm very internet friendly, Google, LinkedIn, Twitter, Sheroes, wherever. I run something called Saturdays with Sairee, which is only for women founders. So come have chai with me, and don't give up. In spite of all the literature and all the data, it's still fun building, because building is fun. It's got your name on it. So keep doing it.
Kailash, Atul, Swati, Sairee, it's been an absolute pleasure this evening. Thank you so much.